And I am back, and in this video we're gonna talk about the phenomenal book Outwitting the Devil by the one and only Napoleon Hill. And we're gonna summarize it, we're gonna review it, and we're gonna share the most valuable insight from that great book. It's one of the books that Napoleon Hill wrote just after Think and Grow Rich, one of the best sellers ever in terms of personal development, self-growth, and so on. But he didn't publish the book way after his death. And the reason why they hold back that book for so long, I think it was meant to come out in 1938, and it only came out in 2011. The reason why they hold back to this book is because this is an interview between Napoleon Hill and the devil, right? And they felt like the world wasn't ready for this. There would be too much criticism, too much blasphemy, too much weird stuff, and they were kind of afraid that people will kind of just turn this into something that it is not. So in this book, what Napoleon Hill does is that he interviews the devil, right, in his imagination. He creates that interview and he asks him about how does the devil use to keep people sleepwalking, to keep people away from the success, the prosperity, the achievement, the happiness, the peace, whatever it is that they truly deserve. Why is it that so many people are experiencing hell on earth instead of heaven, basically, okay? And follows is a very, very interesting conversation full of amazing gold nuggets, practical nuggets that can completely transform your life. And we're gonna talk about this right now. The first thing that is important to define is the word drifting and drifter. Those two words are very important to understand because they appear all throughout the book. And this is what the devil does. He tried to get people drifting and to turn them into drifters. And the devil claimed in the book that he controls and influences over 98% of people on the planet. That was back then. So what does that mean? How does drifting look like in your life? Well, I was thinking of a time in my life when I was completely drifting. And that was like when I was 20 and earlier on. I didn't know what I wanted to do. Okay, I just genuinely have no idea about what I wanted to do, how I wanted to live my life, what kind of job or purpose or, goals and ambition I had. I was a bit lost. I was just drifting. I was indecisive. I was inhibited by a lot of fears. I had a weak self-image, and I was kind of just going along to what I was being told. Go and study, get a good job, get a family and buy a house and get a dog and get a kid and get all of this. That was the path I was being led on. Until one day I realized that, this is not what I want. I wasn't happy, I wasn't fulfilled, I wasn't, something was wrong. But I could not point what it was. I could not point what was happening. I just knew that this wasn't it. I wasn't happy, but I could not point to what I wanted to do. But on top of that, making a decision to actively search or to actively go on a different path was very difficult because I had a lot of fears. I had a lot of people around me telling me, what are you complaining? It's normal, just do this, just do that, follow the next thing. And when you accept that, you end up being and falling asleep into the matrix. And I realized, looking back now at that time, that if I didn't do the decision of quitting everything, the relationship and selling my car when I was 20 and just abandoning everything and flying to Australia, I would have probably ended up falling asleep into the matrix and just following what the system wanted from me. And that, if you look at the vast majority of the population on the planet, is exactly what people are doing. They're working day-to-day jobs. Every day looks the same. Their life looks the same. Everything is predictable. They are highly influenced by the media, by social media, by people around them. They have dreams and ambitions. They have things they want to achieve. But there is always a but. They don't have the time. They don't have the money. It's not the right time. They don't have the skills. They're too afraid. They procrastinate. They're too lazy. There's always something that keeps them from living their best life, from creating what they want, from awakening into who they can really be. And this is what the devil called drifting and being a drifter. And this is how he controls people, how he controls the momentum that's happening on the planet and to keep people in his grasp, so to speak. And we're gonna look at how it does that, as it is explained in the book. And then we're gonna look deeply into what does Napoleon Hill says in the book to wake up, to exit the matrix, to become a non-drifter, and to actually live your best life, to achieve success, prosperity, and whatever you may want to create, okay? Now, one of the first things that comes early on in the book is a very interesting question, and the question is, how do you turn people into drifters? And how do you keep them drifting? What is exactly the strategy that you use, okay? And the devil goes on saying that he uses the 6 main fears to keep people in drifting mode, to keep people afraid, to keep people submissive, to keep people dependent. And those 6 fears are fear of poverty, fear of criticism, fear of old age, fear of loss of love, fear of death, and the fear of ill health. And the reason why he uses those fears is because when the mind is controlled by fear, it creates insecurity. People become hesitant, they become doubtful, they start to worry, they start to lose confidence, they start to be on the defensive, they become highly influenceable to just survive, to just get by, to just, be conservative, to not take risks, to not think for themselves. So they become very open to information around them in the media and what people tell them to do and what not to do. So basically it keeps people in a little box. And so fear, and if you look at, for example, the fear of criticism, how many people are actively holding themselves back simply because they're afraid of being judged, simply because they're afraid of ending up embarrassed, simply because they're afraid of what people will think about them? It's huge. What about the fear of poverty? Oh, I want to go there, but what if I lose the money? What if I don't have enough money? What if I end up broke? What if this? So that is another one, right? What about the fear of loss of love? It's huge. That controls us. The decisions we make, we end up procrastinating, we become indecisive. It strongly affects our self-concept, our sense of courage, our sense of identity, our sense of who we are, what we're able to do, the odds we're able to achieve and overcome, and the adversity that we can transmute into success. And so that is one of the main ways that the devil says in the book he controls people through those 6 fears. But he goes further to talk about the education system. Early in the book, he talks about how the education system in most countries is designed to put people in a box, to make them afraid of making mistakes, to make them afraid of thinking for themselves, to simply kind of program them to absorb information, pass a test, make sure they do the next thing, to be obedient, to think the same way, and they kind of become indoctrinated in a certain way, like everybody else, to behave like everybody else, to fall in line like everybody else. And so it kills a lot of creativity. It tells people, and kids especially, what they can do, what is too far out of their reach, what they cannot do, what is too much. So all of this is meant, according to the devil, to really make kids, and especially when they grow up into adult, not think for themselves. He says one of the most important things to become a drifter, right? To become a drifter is to lose the ability to think for yourself and to simply think what other people told you to think, to simply make decisions that other people told you. So you become highly influenceable, highly dependent on, I want to make this, what do you think? And then you make a decision, right? So you don't take initiative, you don't take risk, you don't take decisions for yourself, by yourself, you don't think for yourself. And so the school system is really good at creating drifters. And he says that instead of teaching things like money, the law of success and well-being and self-discipline and so many interesting subjects that will create, individuals who are strong, who are rooted in understanding the law of the mind, the law of the universe, the law of creation, and all those things that will make them awaken into who they really are. The school really put people into the matrix and make them fall asleep, and then they just sleep, walk through life for most of them. So that is the second way that the devil uses to really create drifters in a society. And then he says that there is another thing, something that he uses throughout life, especially through adults, to keep them weak, to keep the body weak and the mind weak, and to just really make them dependent. And he gives example of substance like alcohol, which numbs the mind, make you think and do things and overreact, and kind of just alters your sense of ability and clarity to think. And then he talks about cigarettes, right? Just how, I forgot the words he used, but he says that basically cigarettes can really weaken the mind and create a lot of negative habits. But if I think about this, I think because the book was written in 1933 or 1938 or something like that, today we could add a few other things to the list. And I wanted to add pornography. I think, you're going things like YouPorn and all this kind of pornography that is so available and that kind of really weakens people. That kind of weakens them from that, sexual energy that they have, the sexual energy that they could use to transmute, to drive them to have some ambition and to do certain things. They just, salivate and ejaculate and masturbate on those illusions that they see on the TV, on the computer, on the things, and they give away all their inner power, right? And then they kind of just drift after that. So that is a strong addiction that keeps you dependent. Another form of addiction would be any form of drug that really keeps you dependent on a substance to be happy, and that really fundamentally, like the devil says in the book, alters your ability to think by yourself. It weakens your mind and it weakens your body. And finally, the fourth way that the devil keeps people from awakening and keeps them into drifting is external influence. He says that most people, because they grew up in family that are made by drifters, parents are drifting in certain ways, shape and form, they naturally instill that mindset, those habits to the kids. The society everywhere around kids is naturally passing on those knowledge, those beliefs, those habits. So kids, not only from school, but also from the society, their parents, their teacher, are naturally being induced into being drifter because of the role model that they have around them. And he goes on by saying that because you become the average of the 5 people you spend most of your time with, you have to be really careful. Who do you spend time with? Because if 4 of your main friends are all drifting in life, you are going to end up a drifter as well. You're going to be induced. So those are the 4 ways, the 4 main ways that the devil says in the book is creating drifters. Okay. Now Napoleon Hill goes further and asks them, so what would be, the ways, what would be like tools to really awaken from the matrix? Stop being an autopilot, stop sleepwalking, and become a non-drifter. And he shares 7 tools, 7 rules, 7 principles if you want. And I'm not going to go into all of them, but I'm going to share the biggest insight I got from that list, the biggest things that can help you awaken and prevent you from becoming influenced by the devil tools to make you become a drifter. And it's all about personal power. It's all about realizing who you really are and what you're really capable of and what your mind is able to create. And Napoleon said the most important thing on top of the list is definiteness of purpose, meaning knowing exactly what you want, having a goal, an objective, a desire, a purpose, a vision, whatever you want to call it, something that drives you, something that excites you, something you feel enthusiastic to create, to achieve, to share, to give, to become in your life. Because this is what is going to give you the energy, the motivation to seek, to grow, and to become something more. And when you become initiated like this, and when you become driven like this, you become immune almost to all those distractions, all those things that are being, told and used around you. But then he goes further. He says that you can have definiteness of purpose, but if you don't have mastery over yourself, over your thoughts, over your energy, over the habitual patterns that you have of thinking and doing, you will end up distracting yourself and sabotaging yourself and drifting. So he says that you have to become very aware of your most dominant thoughts. You have to become very aware of the way you speak about yourself, the content you use, what you watch, who you spend time around, right? It's another way of controlling your environment is by making sure that you read successful books or empowering books or books that feed you to achieve that purpose that you have decided for yourself. Yeah? It's to surround yourself with mentors or teachers or friends or a group of people who are actively seeking the same goals in life so that you can together grow and keep each other from drifting. And that's what he calls in Think and Grow Rich the principle of the mastermind. Another big thing he talks about is time. And this is what the devil will call the law of hypnotic rhythm. He says that most people underestimate the power of time and how time acts as a compound effect. So if you have certain thoughts, certain habits, certain behaviors, certain ways of doing things, and you do them over and over and over again, compounded with time, those habits will become fixed in your subconscious mind. They will become fixed and they will become very hard to replace after a long time. And that can go for positive habits that will lead you into a successful, resourceful, happy life, or drifting habits that will lead you sleepwalking, becoming anxious, depressed, and unfulfilled in your life. He says that everything is compounded over time, and that your dominant thought always attracts, by the law of nature, the equivalent opposite in a physical form. Whether it's a positive thought, whether it's a negative thought, whether it's worry or doubt that goes on in your mind that you focus on, compounded with time and repetition, it will become fixed and anchored in your subconscious, and you will become a magnet for that state of mind, for that mental attitude. But it also says that you're never fixed there. It might take a longer time to break that habit, simply because you've been using a lot of time to drift. But nothing is set forever. You can, by definiteness of purpose, by self-control, by being awake, undo any form of thoughts and habits and turn the pattern around. And finally, the last piece of advice would be to really face your fear, to work on your self-concept, to realize that you are a powerful creator, that you are able to create, to achieve, to have, and to do anything that you want in your life. You have to start thinking for yourself. You have to start thinking greater about yourself, about your abilities, about life. And you have to start being your own decider. You have to start making your own decisions and face any of those fears that are keeping you stuck, that are keeping you from taking action and becoming and creating your best life. So this is my summary, my insight of this amazing book of how to outwit the devil, how to stop drifting. I hope you enjoyed this video, guys. This is a fantastic book that I strongly invite you to read. And if you have any question down in the comment, let me know, guys. I will see you in my next video. As always, like, share, and subscribe. I'll see you next time.